Okay, so we're going to evaluate functions in word problems. So we've been doing this. You guys have done a great job, like filling in the values, right? And we did all that coloring activity, so we feel pretty confident with that. So now we're going to apply it to scenarios. So we're going to do 2 scenarios in our notes, and then you're going to do 2 scenarios by yourself, and then we'll talk about those scenarios before you leave today. All right, so let's suppose the function f of p equals 25p plus 1,000 represents the cost, f of p, of having p people to a party at a small fancy location. Use the information to complete the items below. Okay, so then I wrote very, like all caps, don't let the f of p throw you off. It's just a formal way of saying why, right? So, and they're saying the function of p because this, remember, is like our x value, and that's going to be what determines, that's our input, that's going to have an effect on our output, which is our y. So let's just break this down together here. What does the 25 represent? What does the 1,000 represent? So in this scenario, this is the cost. So what does 25 represent in this scenario? And P is the number of people you're inviting. So what would the 25 represent? If the function of P is our total cost, right? And P is how many people we invite, what do you think the 25 might represent? Grace?
Cost per person.
Yeah. 25 represents the cost per person at the party. So what does that 1,000 represent then? Hayden?
The other cost.
What other costs might that be?
Like to pay for the location.
Pay for the location. Kika, you knew that?
Well, I was gonna say the stuff that you already spent for the party.
Yeah, the something you already spent. Yep. Yep. Represents the cost. So the 25 would cover like the food and everything, and then the 1,000 represent the cost of the location. Right? So that's just the cost you pay to have it there. If you're going to have a party somewhere other than your home, then you have to pay to use that location, and then everything else, like the food, like let's say you go to a wedding. How many of you have ever been to a wedding? Right? Probably wasn't at the person's house because most people don't like to do that because it's a lot of work. And then, so you pay for the location, and then they say, okay, well, if you want this type of food, it's this much per person. If you want these appetizers, it's this much more per person. And then you also have to pay for, well, everything. Flowers, music. What else is at a wedding? Photographers, right?
You don't have to do that.
I mean, you don't have to, but most people do because they just want someone else to do it on their special day, right? I don't know. Okay, so now we know what these 2 numbers represent in this function. So what would be a reasonable domain for this function? And by domain, I mean, what would be a reasonable x or p value? Because remember that p is like our x value. Jackson?
100.
Maybe 100. Remember, it's a small, fancy location,
I
so
was gonna say 10.
could be 100. That might be pushing it a little bit. Zoe?
85.
85. Okay. Addison?
50.
50. So in this situation, as long as you don't, like, this is where your reasonable domain for a small fancy location might be different than mine. But, I mean, if you said something like 400, that's not a small fancy location. Okay. So our domain right here is going to be obviously between 0 and then, oops, I should write p here, which is also x, right? And then pick a number that you think would be reasonable for a party at a small fancy location. Like, you're not going to be wrong if yours isn't exactly like mine. Addison?
40.
40. Sure, we'll use 40. But you might think 85 is small, right? I've been to weddings with 400 people. I've also been to weddings with like 25 people. So depends on your definition, right? So then what would be a reasonable range? So think about, remember the range is going to be our y values, which is the f of p, So what would be a reasonable amount to spend for this party? We know it's at least going to be 1,000, right? I'll put f of p, which is our y, because it costs $1,000 to rent the place. So that's going to be the least amount I would spend, but you hope that people come to the party. So what do you think, Kike?
Like 1,750.
1,000 what?
750.
Sure. Depending on how many people you have, right? But we're not going to be spending $20,000 at this party. That would be an unreasonable range. So our P is like our X input, our F of P is like our Y output. So then they want us to find the function of 16. So what are we actually finding here? What does that mean, F of 16? Addie?
The total cost.
Total cost if what does that 16 represent? Who remembers? Vince?
16 people.
16 people come to the party. So we would say, all right, the function of 16 is going to be 25 times 16 plus 1,000. So I put the 16 in for the p values in the function. How much is it going to cost to have that party? Well, what's 16 times 25? Think quarters. Like how many dollars is in 16 quarters? 4, right? So that's going to be 1,000. Well, 400, right? So I don't know why I put a 6 there. Parties are expensive, FYI. But not having it at your house is kind of nice too. I always have parties at other locations for my boys because I don't want other people's little boys at my house destroying it. Because that's what they do. They can't help themselves. All right, what does this mean? If I tell you the f of 25 is 1,625, what does that mean in the context of this situation? What does that tell me? What do you think, Kike?
Something times 25 is equal to 1,625.
Not quite. Not quite. What do you think? Yes.
When 25 people come to the party, it's going to cost 1,600.
Perfect. If 25 people attend the party, it will cost $1,625. All right, what if I spent $2,000? How many people attended? How can I figure that out? What kind of math thing am I going to have to do there? Eden?
Take 1,000 and divide it by 25. Because you can't take 1,000 and 2,000 because you've already spent them for everything else.
Right. So this 2,000 is actually my function. This is going to be my answer. So I'm going to put the 2,000 in where that goes. All right, it's going to take the place of where the y value would be because I know the cost, right? So what Eden was saying is that when I solve this, I have to divide 1,000 by 25. and that will tell me how many people came to the party. So I put this number in for the y value. So how many people did attend the party? How many? Huh? Not 400. 40. 40 people attended. That would be my answer. How do we feel about this? Not good?
Just the beginning was confusing.
Well,
2 and 3.
it's what when you're thrown like f of p equals 25p plus 1,000. It's like, wait, what? Like, that's overwhelming. But the actual, once you get down to what each thing stands for, it should kind of feel a little better, because you guys know this. If it said y equals 25x plus 1,000, you'd be all over it, right? Like, easy. So it's that, just more intimidating symbols. Let's try another one. You got this, Avery.
FC.
Yep.
Could you put like any letter?
You can put any letter.
Okay. What about like? Wait. What about F?
No, well, I mean, that would just get confusing, but you could do it.
Okay.
That would be up to you. Okay. Suppose the function f of c equals negative 6c plus 150 represents the amount, f of c, left on a gift card after drinking c coffees at a coffee shop. Suppose this use this information to complete the items below. So again, really what we have here, if you want to write it above, is y equals negative 6x plus 150, right?
Wait, what's that? C?
Right, but I'm just putting it in x's and y's for you so that like you can be like, oh, okay, that's not so bad, right? Okay, so we're going to break this down exactly like we did the first example. What does the negative 6 represent? What does the negative 6 mean? I know you know, and I know Hayden knows. I want to hear from somebody else. Don't be shy. I know you know, Zoe. Some of you are doing all the work. I know you know. Logan, thank you. Not quite, but I appreciate the effort. What do you think? Mackenzie?
Is it the cost?
It's the cost per coffee. Yes, so you're taking money away from your gift card every coffee you drink, yeah?
$6?
Right? They're at Starbucks, all right? Okay, so the negative 6 represents
Can I try negative 6 equals cost of coffee?
the cost per coffee.
Can you do that?
You can abbreviate if you want.
Wait, negative 6 equals cost per coffee worth?
Sure. How about the 150 then? What does that represent? All the hands in the air. All the hands. What does it mean? What does the 150 mean? Don't be shy. Jackson?
Yeah,
Cost without the gift card?
No? You guys ever used gift cards before? Vince?
How much is on it?
How much do you start with on the gift card?
All this just to find out.
Does amount have 2 M's or 1? Okay.
Why would the coffee cost negative though? Like,
So what it's showing us is that, okay, hold on one
Takes
second.
that much off.
So it subtracts $6 every coffee that you get from the gift card.
so I'm just wondering, would a different way of writing it be like 6x minus 1? Oh, well, it's probably maybe not, but
It's kind of the same thing.
okay.
Yeah, so you start out with a positive 150. This represents the cost per coffee that's taken, like how much is taken off your gift card.
Okay.
Does that, right, you're losing $6 every time you, right?
Could you do 6 times x minus 150? When you're on the other stuff, 150 minus 6x. Would that work?
You could, but you don't have a negative 150 on your gift card. You have a positive
No.
150 on the gift card.
150 minus 6x.
That's the same thing.
Coffee.
But we put it in, this is like slope-intercept form, right? So like we kind of always write our equations as slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. Yeah? You guys remember that?
Yeah,
I saw some of you go, oh no. That's still here. That's a thing, guys. You're going to be using that for the next, forever long you're in school. Y equals mx plus b. Okay.
I don't remember that.
What is a reasonable domain for this function? So what are the reasonable x values for this function? What do you think? Eden? 23?
Predict. Wait, how many?
23
per
cups
day?
of coffee? Sure, but so we're going to start at 0. And we've got our c, which is our x value. And then, what would be a reason? So you said 23, Hayden?
I said more like
10, okay. Addison?
like $5.
Okay, so, let me get, okay. So the domain isn't how much we think it would, like, the coffee would cost. It's how many coffees could we get?
Oh.
Yes.
My bad.
So you could really say anything as long as it doesn't go over what value, because you don't have that much money on your card. So how many coffees could you get? At most, how many coffees can you purchase with this gift card?
14.
12, no.
No, that's probably like 20. No, that's 18.
So 150 divided by 6.
25.
25! Yes, 25.
I knew that.
Mm-hmm. You were so close. So close. So the reasonable range for this is pretty easy because we know how much is on the gift card, right? So 0 less than or equal to the function of c less than or equal to 150. Remember, that's my y value.
We have a test on this on Thursday.
Well, this is just part of the test.
This part wrong.
You're going to be fine. No, you guys are going to be fine. Okay, what's the function of 12? You drink 12 coffees. So I'm going to say the function of 12 equals -6 times the 12 coffees I drink plus 150 because I start out with $150. So this is like saying y equals -6 times 12 plus 150.
72.
So I've spent $72 on coffees. So how much money is left on my gift card?
Oh, 130.
I would say 78.
78, yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
Is it 78?
78.
78 and 72 equals 150?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think.
Okay. Yeah.
So is it? That's how much you have left. So you spent 72 on coffee and you have 78 left on your gift card. We'll write ourselves a note.
Not right.
Wait, when it gets more like advanced, will it be like the function of 12 plus something equals or no?
No, we're just, no.
It's never gonna be like that.
Because I just
Not this year.
Oh my gosh, I will.
this year.
I don't know what Algebra 2 looks like right now. I don't know I don't know how advanced they get up there because I haven't taught that. Okay, relate the notation f of 15 equals 60 to the context of the problem. So what does that mean? What does the f of 15 equals 60? So if we had put 15 into here and got 60, what does that mean? If I put 15 instead of 12 and my answer was 60, what did that tell us happened? What happened in that situation? Callie? Perfect.
Let's go.
Fantastic. Because if I put 15 into that, it would be negative 6 times 15, which is negative 90. And then negative 90 plus the 150 tells me I have $60 left to spend. Suppose you have $18 left on your gift card. How many coffees did you purchase? So we're going to do the same thing. This is actually our f of c. So we're going to have 18 equals negative 6c plus 150. So we would subtract 150 from both sides. Don't worry, negative divided by a negative gives us a positive, so don't worry that we have negative weird numbers. So how many drinks have we had? How many purchased coffees?
I have
14.
12.
It's going to be 22,
23. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
22, right?
14. Okay.
Oh, it is.
Okay, so now it's time for you to practice on your own. But, Freeze, I want to do the number one on the first one together, because that was the only way I could make it so there was front and back, front and back. So we're going to do this first one together here. Just number one, literally, not the whole thing. Okay, suppose the function f of p equals 50p represents the total money raised, f of p, if each person, p, donating the same, we should say donated the same amount to a local charity. Use the information to complete the items below. Okay, so remember, this could also be the same as saying y equals 50x. So if the f of p and the p thing are what's standing in your way of understanding this, just rewrite it. Okay. So what does the 50 represent? Yes. Yeah. Right? Because we are assuming that each person donated the same amount. Why isn't there a value added to the 50p? Think about the scenario. And why isn't it like plus 150 or plus 1,000 like our other two examples? PK?
Nobody has donated yet.
Excellent! No one has donated yet. So nothing added. Perfect. I did kind of doubt you, I'm not going to lie. I apologize, I shouldn't have.
At least you were honest about it.
Hey, I'm sometimes too honest. That's probably one of my, you know, and like, has anyone ever asked you like strengths and weaknesses and you're like, this is weird? How do I, like, some people will say weaknesses that are actually like, oh, how could that possibly be a weakness? Like, no, I'm too honest sometimes. That would be a weakness. Sometimes I just shouldn't say things. Just keep the thoughts to myself. Yes, Lux.
Wouldn't it be like no one has donated yet, not no has donated yet?
Oh, it should be. You're right. Thank you. No one has donated yet, so nothing added. Thank you. That did look a little strange. Okay, so you guys are going to do the rest of this and the back. It's going to be great. Yeah? Give you just a few minutes, and then we'll go over some answers together.